we start to adopt some of those things, right?
And I feel like he had the blueprint,
right?
In my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Because it was like, he started locally, he grew his roots, and then he branched out and then came back. You know what I'm saying? Like, he kept his identity throughout all of it, which is something I feel like in the community, like, kind of gets frowned upon. Like, it's like, I feel like it's a stigma to where if you like get that amount of success, then you have to leave. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like there's like animosity you feel. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that has to change. You know?
Yeah. I mean, he's this really good example of someone who he came up in the gang life, right? And his identity is very much tied. It was very much tied with him being in a gang. But being able to separate that and saying, I'm going to do good for the community, where gang culture is so violent, right? It's so criminalized, it's so villainized in the media. Because, violence does happen, right? But he was somebody that didn't lose that identity. That identity has always been there. He didn't necessarily separate himself and say, I'm not affiliated with that anymore. Like, until the day he died, people knew what set he rolled with. And I think that that's important too, because so often in hip-hop, people they're forced to kind of separate themselves and kind of disentangle their identities and who they are. So hopefully that kind of authenticity that he had, and this will to give back to the community in spite of anything that's going on, right? Hopefully we can follow that blueprint. So I mean,
like
it's a big loss.
There was just a lot to learn from him, because personally, how I found out about Nipsey was from his rollout with Victory Lap. And what the music didn't even turn me on to him. It was like what he was doing as an entrepreneur, as a businessman, trying to establish a brand. Because that was motivation for me in the position I'm in. I'm about to be a senior. I am a senior, and like, just graduating and trying to figure out what there is to do, you know what I'm saying, out here for somebody who's really trying to make it. And I felt like he had a lot of the things that I wanted to be, and he was in the midst of attaining it. So it was like you could resonate with that, because you felt like, okay, he's got a head start, but he's providing a way for me to follow, you know what I'm saying, in a sense.
I mean, they said he died on the way. He was at his store because I think a homeboy of his or something had, gotten out of jail, and so he was going to his store to like get him clothes, so he could be okay, and that's when he got shot, right? And so you think about him dying in the process of this very charitable act, right? It's a really weird juxtaposition, and I think that a lot of people were really caught off guard because he was just starting to break into the mainstream for music, right? But a lot of people have been following kind of like his philanthropic work or whatever. So it's a huge loss, man. Like, a lot of people are really devastated. It really came out of nowhere. And I remember my friend was like, "Oh, Nipsey Hussle got shot," and I was like, "Well, dang, that sucks." But I didn't know he died, right? And then they were like, "Nah, he died," and I was like, "Man, like, So hopefully a lot of people can hopefully people can gain something from this, right? That, one of my mentees was talking about how he's been feeling very mortal, and I was telling him, the only thing that we can say for sure that's going to happen is that we're going to die, right? And you have to live every day of your life, making an impact and leaving a legacy so that people can remember you and say, I remember this person when they were here, they did these things, and I think that's kind of what we see with Nipsey. Like, a lot of people are remembering the good things that he did and the music that he made, and not really leaning on this kind of criminalized past of him being a part of the gang culture. So it shows that you can still have that identity, but you can still leave a good legacy, right? A positive legacy. So hopefully people can hang on to that.
Yeah, but something I think also people should account for is your past does always follow you.
Absolutely.
So make sure in your past you make everything good and make sure everything's straight, so something like this won't happen to you. Because people are going to be people at the end of the day, right? People have their own jealousy, envy, and all that comes with you obtaining success. So you got to make sure everything's squared away in your past, so your future will be great and prosperous.
And I think that's one of the precarious things about life is that, you know, you can make mistakes in the past and you can turn it around for good and people will still be that way and it still might lead you there, right? Or you can be good in the past and be good in your present and it still leads you there. And that's why life is so precarious, because you never know when it's going to end. And you never know when somebody might be plotting on you, or somebody just doesn't like what you're doing, or, you know, whatever the case may be. And we know that this was one of like his close people. They're saying it was one of his close people, right? He's in pictures with him. And it still kind of led him there, right? So that's one of the precarious things about, you know, life, is that kind of no matter what you do, death is inevitable.
Both sides of the spectrum.
And that really sucks, right?
Full moon and a new moon.
Yeah,
that's the same.
Yeah, it sucks that, you know, you can kind of turn your life around, or you can be on the straight and narrow, and it just still, you know, people. There are just some really hateful people out there, you know, and it sucks that you might not know who they are when you meet them, but they exist. Let's just say that, yeah.
So from an artist perspective, myself and maybe some other people around the table, how important is ownership as an artist?
Like owning
your masters,
your
own product?
I think it's everything, right? Like, you know, post his death, all of his streams went up, right? And people were saying keep doing that because he owns it. And so that's something that was so, and kind of his children and his family will be able to reap those benefits. But we've seen people who have had huge commercial success. I'll use Lauryn Hill because I'm a child of, you know, growing up in the 90s. The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was like one of the first rap albums to win Best Album, but she didn't own any of it. And so when she went back on tour, right, she had to change basically everything about these songs because she couldn't use that music because she didn't own it. And people were saying that was part of the destruction of Lauryn Hill, aside from, you know, things with mental health or whatever. But the fact that she didn't own that stuff, she couldn't use that legendary stuff. It's legendary. It's a legendary album. It's the only album she made, right? And so now people are talking about, you know, her part of the process and how many people, you know, people wrote the music for her, people created all these things for her. But the bottom line is that she did not own it. And so the Lauryn Hill that we knew is not the Lauryn Hill that was on tour at all, because everything that we kind of vibe with, the sound of the music that we know and love, she couldn't use it because she didn't own it. And so I think that, you know, with any type of creative endeavor, owning your stuff is like paramount, you know? Especially if you're out here trying to make money, you gotta own your stuff. If not, then
yeah, honestly, because it's like, I know from personal experience that once you get to a certain extent, you're gonna always want more as an artist.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you have a music video that goes like viral. I mean, you're seeing the results and the fruit of your labor as far as like trying to become like more respected in your craft. But then when you look at it from a standpoint of like business, you're like, okay, I got music out here that I'm not getting anything off of except for that emotional reaction of feeling like validated to see like clicks beside your name. You're not really getting anything monetary. And these days, that's what people find substantial nowadays. Like in the rap community, I feel like a lot of focus is on like what you have as far as assets, you know what I'm saying? And once you reach that level, it's kind of like, okay, you gotta find a way to surmount it or pass it, but it's just hard trying to like figure out how to gauge that, you know what I'm saying, as an artist.
I mean, and when you think about wealth building, like, you always want to make your money make money for you, right? And if you're not in charge of the money that you have from the beginning, then that, you know, that hits a lot of different hands before it gets to you. So ultimately, like, you want to be in charge of your own stuff. That's why Chance the Rapper was like, I don't want a record deal, because I get all of the money for me because I own all of this stuff. I'm in charge of whatever, right? And there are a lot of lyricists that kind of talk about, you know, these kind of payola schemes and like 360 deals that go through a lot of different hands before they get to you, right? in a space where you might not be a platinum selling artist. You know, if you only get 35 cents off of a spin after it's divided up by all of these people, and you only got 1,000 spins, right? We're not talking about millions of spins, right? We're talking about maybe thousands, you know, couple of thousands, tens of thousands, right? 100,000 spins is a lot for an amateur artist, right? And now we're talking about being more mainstream when you think about numbers like that. So for those starting up, own your stuff, be in control of your own stuff, right? And be careful with the people that you have around you, because they will, you know, push you into things because they might get something out of it, right? So yeah, owning your stuff is, I'm an advocate for owning your stuff, definitely.
So I know your time's a little limited, so I got one more question for you.
Okay.
A message for anybody out there, artists, non-artists, to go on through life and just remember.
I've been trying to just be more positive in general. Like, I realized that the ability to be negative is so easy, and not negative about anything specifically, but just negative in general, you know, talking negative or thinking negative thoughts, right? So I've just been trying to be more positive in general, right? And live a life where love is at the beginning of that. And since I've been doing that, like, you know, I'm a PhD student, so like anxiety and stress is all-time high, right? And I go to therapy to kind of deal with that. But just in general, I physically feel better because I'm not harboring as much negative energy, right? And my relationships with friends have gotten stronger, right? I'm building better bonds with people. So like, be positive, live a life full of love, and just literally work every day as if it's your last. Because you never know when your time is going to be up. And you always want to have a legacy that people will remember in the positive, right? So yeah, be positive, love people, live life to the fullest.
Alright. And that's it.
Alright, I appreciate y'all for having me on. It's my first podcast. So I appreciate that.
And where can the people find you if they want to reach you?
On Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Kenny6cents. That's KENNYS, the number 6, CENTS. Yeah, I'm usually there, one of those two places. So yeah, follow me. I'll follow you back, and we can dialogue some more.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. All right, thank y'all.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Uncle Kenny in the building.